We do have a couple of super chats, guys, and I feel like one of them is actually a great jumping off point for the, I guess, what we would call the final segment here. Bill, shout out to Bill, says, so worst case scenario for Embiid, what should the Sixers do for the rest of the season? And look, again, we don't know what the scenario is quite yet, but I think we've kind of talked this out already, right? That I don't think the plan changes that much. I think the types of players that they have wanted to go after are still appealing to trade for right now. In fact, you could make an argument they might be even more appealing because, like, look, even if we were to say, hey, they're not making a huge trade or whatever, they're not going to just lay down and die. Like, they're not going to say, hey, we're going to throw in the towel and tank. Like, they're not in that kind of position. They might. I think the real impact of this is if there were any fence sitters in the front office who were going to, whether it's Daryl, whether it's someone in Daryl's ear saying like, hey, maybe we should give DeJounte Murray a closer look. Maybe we should consider, Zach LaVine's money over the next however 3-4 years, and whether the skill set is just worth it. Like, those conversations, if they existed in the first place, get tabled. But I don't think, like, if they're able to get guys on 2 and 3 year affordable deals, the Carusos, the Bogdanoviches, guys like that, like, I don't think they're passing up a fair value opportunity to get players like that. So I don't think it changes too much, but certainly you could make a stronger argument for standing pat and just saying we're keeping all our picks and we're going to try to attack this problem in the summertime.
See, I think it does. Like, if we're talking worst case scenario and that Embiid is tabled for the year, part of the allure of trading for someone, especially if someone has like 2 years left, is getting two playoff runs out of them. If you remove one of those two playoff runs from the equation, then it has to change how much you're willing to give to get that player. And it has to change how much you're prioritizing it now and this year over, having more ammunition to, like you said, attack the problem in the summer. And again, I don't necessarily think that means saving your cap space. Like, if you can get a useful long-term player with giving up one of your expirings and a low level pick, then sure, I think you can still approach that. It's keeping those draft picks, those first round picks, so you might have them to trade in the summer. I think it kind of has to impact it a little bit. Like I said, not take anything necessarily off the table, but just impact it in the form of you're not prioritizing these being flexible and able to pounce in the summer a little bit more.
I'll add I'll add to the question of, again, without knowing, but if he has to be about a while and they have to play these games, does it change how you maybe approach it also when it comes to big men, backup big men, in the event that he's going to be out for an extended time? And you just want to make sure if Paul Reed is going to be your starting five, you don't trust Mo Bamba to be out there on a regular basis as his primary five. Does it change how you may look at someone like Andre Drummond or another backup big man who you feel like you can trust to go along and team up with Paul Reed?
Yeah, I mean, I've suggested for quite a while that I think they're more interested in the way it's been phrased that I've heard around the league is, big body type behind Joel. Like, think of it. Drummond's the example, right? Because he's been here and people
Hmm.
know the name, but just
Sure.
a guy similar to that, someone who can body up bigger centers and things like that. Like, what is the actual utility and value of that player? I'm a little dubious on that. Like, I have certainly not been a card carrying Andre Drummond fan club member, nor do I think that that is necessarily the difference between respectability and staying above water over the next, let's just call it a month. We'll see where it actually ends up. Over the next month, however long this ends up going, I don't think that is going to make a huge difference. Like, if anything, what you're missing with Joel being out of the lineup is the ability to throw the ball to somebody and, like, hey, you got us, right? On offense, like they have so little self-creation outside of Tyrese and Tobias. And even Tobias has his limitations. That's a literal self-creator and for nobody else. I think if you're looking to upgrade the team, if you wanted to make a win now and hold the fort type of move, you got to get somebody that can take the burden off of Tyrese so that, as we saw in, I believe it was in Indiana, that he got trapped past half court in that game last week. There's going to be a whole lot of stuff like that, blitzing, hedging, get the ball out of Tyrese's hands if you don't get more people around him who teams fear as attackers. Now, maybe you get some shooters and that'll help, but I think there has to, if you're looking at it from that perspective, it's got to be somebody with a bit of juice off the dribble as a creator for others. And unfortunately, those guys are expensive. So to Derek's point about reconsidering what you're willing to give up, I don't see that as especially likely right now.
We all silly like the mayor.